it makes me feel extremely motivated going into the new year. So happy with where everything's at, and just happy where things are looking to be going into the new year, and having that motivation going into the new year, I think, is always big time.
2025 is going to be better for all of us.
Absolutely.
We're believing into that for the new year, and for people watching at home, I believe that 2025 is going to be your best year. He's just locked in at a different level,
elevating, things to another level.
Welcome back to another episode of Breaking House Rules. I'm Cam. This is Dre. No Vaughn this episode, but we're talking a lot of ball, storytelling, and just fun vibes because the Dolphins still have a chance, Dre. Let's just jump into that. Take me into your world as a fan, the emotions, what we're looking at going into Week 18.
You told me 2-6, man. It was looking bleak. The emotions were low. Vibes were low. It was like, I can't believe with this team we're in this spot. But like we said, we've talked about it all year long, the hopium, right? We were holding on to enough of it every single week. And you go 6-2 down the stretch. And here we are with some meaningful football on Week 18. With some good wins, right? Unfortunately, no Tua this week, but we found a way to win. And here we are with an actual chance to get in the playoffs. I mean, this Sunday couldn't have been a better Sunday.
Yeah.
We won. Colts lost to the Giants, which, you looked at that and you're like, this is not going to happen, right? Like, we're not going to get the losses that we need. And then here we are with the Broncos playing the Chiefs, although it's the backups most likely, or some of the backups for the Chiefs this week. We have an actual chance, which feels good. It feels like we actually might get in, which is insane.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance.
I feel the hope coming out of your spirit, and I know there's a lot of Dolphin fans who are watching who are feeling the same thing. And look, this has been a wild whirlwind season to cover. From week 1 when you got Tyreek Hill being arrested before a game to week 18 where you need a Chiefs win to get you in. And you may not have your starting quarterback again dealing with the injury. So it's just a whirlwind of a year for Miami. But I'll say this, man, they are never boring. They are never boring. There's always something to talk about. And, I hope for your sake, for Vaughn's sake, that this is a fun ride at the end. I know there's just going to be a lot of questions this offseason about what changes. But I think right now it's probably fun as a fan to live in the moment of there's a chance.
Listen, there are teams that are in way worse situations, right? So when you see what's going on around the league and where we're at with meaningful football in Week 18, I will take that every single day. It's obviously unfortunate. You want to have a spot clinched. You don't want to have to be sweating week over week. And with this roster, that the expectations are so high. But at the end of the day, with, to your point, with everything that this team has dealt with this year, and to still be, a 9-8 team, assuming obviously that we beat the Jets this week with a winning record 3 years in a row, playoffs 2 years back to back, and another chance to make the playoffs again this year. I mean, that you can't really ask for a lot more than that at the end of the day. Obviously, you want to be there with the Chiefs. You want to be there with the Ravens. You want to be there with the Bills and win divisions and host home playoff games, right? Like, that's where you want to be with this team because we know we can with all the talent we have on the field. So, there's that high expectation with this team. But at the end of the day, to be in this spot, I will take it. You look at the Jets, you look at the Giants, you look at, so many teams around the league that are in crap situations at the end of the day. And here we are, with everything that's happened, and we're still we have a chance to be 9-8 and sneak into the playoffs, right? And this is a team that we've been talking about. If you let them into the playoffs, we know that we can compete, and it almost feels like a team of destiny, right? The team that we're comparing to as like Dolphins fans right now, or at least hoping to be, is that I think 2005 Giants, right, where they snuck into the wild card, played on the road the whole way through, and found the way into the Super Bowl, right? So that's what this feels like almost. Like if we get in and Tua is healthy going into the playoffs, then I mean, shit, the sky's the limit with this team, and we want Buffalo in that first round.
We want Buffalo. Man, Hopium is a crazy drug. I was in Buffalo this week for the Washington game, and I'm not sure if Miami really wants Buffalo. But if
Listen,
you got to the playoffs, it would certainly be a fun
anything can
journey.
happen. It's a
Yeah,
division game. We see Buffalo 2 times a year, right? So it's like of all the teams, Buffalo, maybe outside of the Bengals, like I don't know if they want to see us considering like obviously they have our number, but we
yeah.
play them very competitively
Yeah.
usually, right? So hey, anything can happen. I've seen crazier shit happen.
Yeah, for sure, and it'll be a great year, great way to start off the new year.
Oh
First of
hell
all,
yeah,
Happy New Year to you, Happy New Year to everybody at home.
you too.
2024 coming to a wrap, 2025 going forward, and we're gonna have a lot of conversation in this pod about looking back on moments in 2024, looking ahead to 2025. But the last thing I want to say on this Dolphins thing, in a crazy Week 18 we're going into, is one. Special shout out to the defense, Anthony Weaver, and this defense. The linebackers play really well. Terrell
Oh
Dotson got
yeah,
another impressive pick, and I think you're going to see Anthony Weaver get some head coaching interviews this offseason.
oh yeah.
I don't know if he gets a job or not, but he's been extremely impressive. His personality, his energy, and they've really kept the Dolphins afloat in periods where Tua's been hurt or the offense has been sluggish. Our guy Vaughn, almost had a couple picks
Oh
this week.
man, that would
I
have been
know
crazy.
he was so close, but it's cool to see that unit come about. But they may need another performance this week. The Jets team, I saw them last week. They definitely look like a team that rolled over and is ready for Cancun.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but you never know. Final game, and it's looking like the way Mike McDaniels talked to the media earlier this week that we may be looking at another Snoop Huntley week. Tua is still dealing with the hip injury, and it's something that is limiting his mobility. So you may have to win a game in Week 18, and I know Dolphins fans don't want the heartbreak of what if the
right.
Broncos do lose, but we still lose. So you got to take care of business. But I can't wait till Week 18. I will be in Atlanta at another game, playoff implications, but I'll be watching closely once it turns to that 425 slate to see what the Dolphins and the Broncos do.
I will tell you this: that would be the most Dolphins thing to happen. That the Broncos actually lose, and then we
Yeah,
lose because we just can't beat the Jets on the road. I've seen that happen so many times. But yeah, Snoop looked great this week. He actually looked comfortable in that offense. The throws were on the money.
yep,
His QBR, I think, was the highest of the year for the Dolphins. He was
yeah,
extremely efficient. Made a ton of plays with his legs. Like he looked like he was having fun out there. He looked comfortable. He was finding Reek, right? Which I think that was a question: is like who's going to be able to get open in this offense, right? And be able to give Snoop a chance to get the ball out of his hands. And I mean, yeah, he found Craycraft on a big third down. He was feeding Reek all day. Johnu had another touchdown. I mean, the offense was pretty damn efficient all game long. And if he can carry that into New York, I think we got a great chance to win. As long as the defense obviously plays the way that it played this week, because the defense plays like that. I mean, I think we got a chance every single week, right?
yeah,
But I mean, look, I think with this team, the big thing is if we could find the way to, has got to be obviously helped to get in the
yeah.
playoffs. I don't know what that situation is going to pan out to be. It's another like you got to be kidding me situation, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean we'll see what happens in week 18.
Yeah, I get that. You got to be kidding me because it's exhausting a little bit for Tua. I know there's a lot of references on social media. If every time you look up, he's hurt, and I feel
Right.
bad for him because he's working hard. He's a hard worker. It's not like a guy who's just tapping out.
Right.
What I understand, this hip injury is very notable. It's something that for lack of a better word, he'd be a sitting duck back there. And
Yeah.
with this offensive line, you don't want to risk him getting furtherly hurt. But I get it. I get it. It's prime time. It's crunch time. You want your big money quarterback to be there. So I get the frustration. And honestly, I'm sure Tua's frustrated too. The timing just can't be
100%.
worse for him with these particular injuries. But his guy Snoop can hold it down and maybe at least get him to the playoffs. And I kind of chuckle because every time I say Snoop, I get reactions from fans of Snoop. Is that his real name? His real name is Tyler. His mama
Yeah.
named him Tyler, but he prefers to go by Snoop. All his teammates call him Snoop, so I'm gonna call him Snoop. I don't know
Okay.
his mama. If I knew his mama, I might call him Tyler, but he goes by Snoop Huntley, and maybe the Dolphins will be riding high after
Yep.
Snoop puts together another good game. So
Hell yeah.
it'll be a fun one. It'll be a fun
It's
one.
It's funny because you bring up the whole thing with the mama and the names. I don't know if you saw the thing with DTJ this weekend, quarterback of the
Yeah,
Browns, Dorian
yeah.
Thompson. So they were calling him DTJ, I guess, for a while on
DTR,
TV.
DTR, yeah,
DTR,
Dorian
my bad.
Thomas Robinson, yeah,
Yeah, DTR. And they were calling him that for a while. And then his mom came and was like, no, 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 no. Call him by his full name, Dorian
yeah,
Thompson Robinson.
yeah.
So the commentators were like, all right, we're calling him that from now on.
They met the mama. They heard from the mama.
Exactly.
If mama tells you something, you got to respect that off principle.
Amen.
I've only
Amen.
met Mr. Tyler Snoop Huntley, so I'm gonna call him Snoop. But if I met Miss Huntley, Mama Huntley, maybe I'll change my mind.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Um, we talked about the new year, and everybody goes about New Year's differently. But for us on this pod, I just wanted to say I'm grateful for this platform, for us trying something new. It's been a fun, different journey, building something from scratch, building something on our own. And there's been ups and downs. The season hasn't gone as well as we would have hoped, but it's been so encouraging for me to see how much we've evolved from this pod, from episode 1 to where we are now, how much better we've got as a crew. And I can't wait for us to continue this going in 2025. But I think I want to use this bridge from the Dolphins to kind of pick your brain. Take us through your 2024, and what is that one memory that stands out to you? Let's start with as a fan. We'll talk about as a life later, but let's say as a fan, what was the one moment on one of your sports teams where you will remember, for years to come?
I mean, it's got to be the Stanley Cup Finals for the Panthers this
Mm.
year.
Yeah,
That was electric. That run and just the dominance that the Panthers had. I mean, we haven't seen a championship in this city since the Heat, right? And 13 with LeBron, and then in that era. So it had been a couple years where we could feel a championship here. Obviously, we want one for the Finns. I don't know what the reaction in the city will be when the Dolphins hopefully ever win a Super Bowl, because that will. If the Panthers was like that and the Heat was like that back in the day, the Dolphins, I think the city might burn down. Like that would be that
yeah,
might be crazy.
right.
So obviously we want that, but I would say as a fan, in terms of all of what's happened this year in sports, I would say obviously Stanley Cup. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And this year with the Finns, there hasn't been like a true highlight moment. If we make the
Mhm.
playoffs, considering that would just be amazing. But really, I would say this year with the Finns, I mean, the Rams game was probably like the big game this year where we felt like, hey, this
Yeah.
team's going to turn the corner around and be able to string a couple wins together. But yeah, I would say those two as a fan would probably be the big moments this year.
For sure, for sure. I'll do mine as a reporter because I probably spend more time in that lane than the fan lane.
Right.
But I would say for me, and I guess I'll put this as two parters because around this time last year, maybe 2 weeks after, I was in Buffalo, and I still remember the Buffalo Blizzard game. And I have a love hate relationship with Buffalo, not because of the fandom perspective, because I'm not a Dolphins fan, but every time I go there, some seems to happen. Every time I'm involved with the Bills, from 2 years ago and covering DeMar Hamlin, and that incident, to last year with the Blizzard. And I was up there before a game with the Steelers, and I ended up getting stuck there for 6 days because of the weather.
Damn.
Reporting outside, the game got postponed. I remember reporting outside in like this blizzard-like condition, people going crazy over social media video that I had where I looked like Jon Snow of the North. The snow was sticking to my beard. I looked like I was going on this great escapade. And I'm so memorable for me because it's different than what I normally do, right? And I felt like being able to shine and report in those elements where there wasn't many people outside. I didn't want people outside. I'm a Florida guy. Was just a different level I was able to add to my enhancements, and it was so memorable. Like people were texting me about people love weather games. People love weather atmospheres, and I just remember the reaction from that. And as I probably head back to Buffalo again this winter, that's still probably the most memorable game I had from this past season. This season, this year. I think covering Jaden Daniels has been a really fun experience for me. I think he brings in a level of excitement in the league, unlike anybody I've seen in a while. And I started covering him at his pro day in LSU in March, and just seeing his energy, his infectious personality, and how he throws the ball. And a lot of times, especially for black quarterbacks, they get put in the stereotype of they can't do the passing part of the game, or they're this. And I remember having a lot of those questions from other people with him around the draft process. I've covered him now 3 games during the regular season, and every single one he's played incredible and led a comeback victory. And so I think that we're looking at one of the quarterbacks who's going to become one of the best in football in short time. And so I think that memory, along with the Bills Blizzards, is what I'll remember in 2024.
Oh yeah, Jaden Daniels is fun to watch. I was watching
Incredible.
that Falcons game this weekend, and
Woo.
he is just electric, and he's so calm and collective.
That's what it
Like
is.
every in the for a rookie, and seeing, I mean, he reminds me a lot of C.J. Stroud last year, right? Where
Mhm.
C.J. was just able to make every single play, and obviously, there's always like that second year jump, and how do you adjust based off so much film now that you have on a guy? But seeing what Jaden Daniels has been able to do this year, and like you said, lead game-winning drive game
Yeah.
after game, right?
Mhm.
It's impressive to watch, and seeing him after the fact, right? He's
Yep.
cool. He's cool and calm. It's not like he doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. He knows what the moment is, and I think fans in Washington are like, "Holy shit, we got a guy."
Yeah.
Like that's amazing.
They got one. They got one for sure. That poise is something that's different, especially at his age. Jaden Daniels is special, man. It's been fun to watch, man. Washington has not got a lot of love in recent years,
No
but that
way.
franchise has turned it around with a new head coach and Dan Quinn, new ownership, new president coming in, and new quarterback. And
Yep.
the biggest guy I'm happiest for is Terry McLaurin. Because one of my favorite dudes to interview in the league. He's always intentional with his words, always gracious with his time, and thoughtful in what he says. And he's dealt with double-digit quarterbacks in his career and
Yep.
still has success. So for him to finally get that guy, I can feel it every time I see his smile, his energy. It's like a kid who finally got that gift he wanted for Christmas.
Yeah.
Many
Seriously.
years of being like, "Yay, this shirt is awesome! Yay, I love that I got a new socks." He finally got that PlayStation 2 I was talking about last week, and
Yep.
I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I remember last year I went to the game in Washington, and I remember it just being so bleak there. I think
Yeah,
I think the fans there last year was like 60-40 Fins fan, right?
yeah, yeah,
It just showed that no one even cared to show up for games there. They thought the future was so bleak there, and you just look at the jump year over year just
yeah,
by landing a guy like Jaden, and it's turned around that team, and now they're a playoff team. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah, man. Wild, wild.
Yeah, but I know we're going in the new year. Got to do our mental health check-ins and see how everyone's doing. I know Vaughn, he's got the family over, or his girl's family over, so he's taking some time off. But got to check in. How you doing, Cam? How's life outside of ball?
Yeah, man, the holiday seasons is a whirlwind. I'm not gonna lie, I'm very tired,
Yeah,
just because of the week. Travel gets to you this time of year with the weather. But I had a moment on a flight heading back from Buffalo, and you sort of always worry about your individual small problems. Like, I'm tired, I gotta get up in the morning, I'm trying to get a workout in, balance time with my family, do all these different things. And I just sat back for a second. It's like, how grateful should I be, that these are my problems? My problems is, oh, I'm getting into the airport from at 3 a.m.
all right.
From a flight that my company paid for to a game that I get paid to cover. To a family and a house that I was able to provide for them through a job that God was able to provide for me. And I think those moments of gratitude keep me whole, because I can look back some moments of my life and say there's no reason I should be here. I've made different mistakes in my life, or I probably didn't deserve everything that I was given as early as I was given it, and I'm just so thankful. And so in a moment where I may have felt lack of energy, I was kind of resurged through that. And then also, just the blessing of being around family. We had, Christmas, and my wife and my daughter had an amazing Christmas. My wife had a birthday the 31st, and we had a great time there. And told them we're gonna get a dog. It's all great vibes there, like, and so that energizes me when I don't feel maybe the physical energy. I'm energized based on the life that I've been able to live, and the people around me.
Oh yeah, gratitude is the best attitude. It takes
Absolutely.
take
How you
takes you a
feeling,
long
Trey?
way. I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. I'm heading out of town now for the new year, heading up
Awesome.
to St. Augustine. So looking forward to getting away for a little bit and just change of scenery and just one last little disconnect before a crazy start to the new year. I'm just really grateful as well. Just it's been a great year, a lot of learning, a lot of just kind of new opportunities that have happened and very, very happy of where I'm at personally. Obviously, it's something that you never really know, month over month, like what's the next, challenge that you're going to be faced, and
For
what's the
sure.
next opportunities that are going to be faced, right? Like both sides of the equation. But to be in this spot this year and just see the growth that I've had personally and on the business side of things, it makes me feel extremely motivated going into the new year. So happy with where everything's at and just happy where things are looking to be going into the new year, and having that motivation going into the new year I think is always big time.
I love it, man. I love it, man. You've had a heck of a year. It's been fun to go upon this journey with you.
Yeah,
Just kind of see how you work and how you build, man. 2025 is going to be better for all of us.
absolutely.
We're we're believing into that for the new year, and for people watching at home, I believe that 2025 is going to be your best year as well. And
Fuck yeah.
so I appreciate you guys as a fan base. Kind of spending your time, your hour, your 45 minutes with us, and we're going to continue to create great content. Remember to subscribe and share, and we got some fun things coming for you guys in 2025.
Hell yeah. And if you got New Year's goals that you have, put them in the comments because
Put
we
them in the
want to hear them
comments.
too.
Put them in the
We want to hear
comments.
them.
We gotta hold each other accountable, right?
Hell
And
yeah.
you can't be held accountable unless you say it out loud to someone else. So I'm a big
Amen to
believer
that.
in that, and so definitely say it and say it out loud. And we're gonna do some of our New Year's resolutions towards the end of this episode. But first, I want to go back to something I teased a bit ago in regards to your favorite life moments of 2024. This is our non-football segment, but if you can think of a memory or a moment in your life that comes to your mind of like, I really was at peace. I was happy. I enjoyed this. This was my period of the year.
Hell yeah. I would say two things. One was being able to cover the PGA Tour this year and
Mm,
travel to
yeah,
go to a lot of different tournaments this year, and meet a lot of the PGA Tour players and interview guys like a Joel Damon, right? Who's a guy that I've been a huge fan of my whole life watching
yeah,
golf, and being able to just sit down with him and have a conversation over golf and life outside of golf. And he's had his challenges in his life. He had cancer, and just kind of hitting his perspective about how that affected him mentally and his family and all that, and just being able to have those type of dialogues, very similar to your interactions with guys on the football field, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
getting to know people at a deeper level and being able to connect with people like that, I think is extremely cool. And if you would have told me 2 years ago that I would have been doing that, I would have said how. So to be able to do that, I think was a huge highlight of the year. And then, big career goal of mine was, being able to do my company full time, right? I
Hmm.
was working a job and doing this at the same time. And being able to, leave your job to be able to achieve that goal and pursue this full time and grow that way, I think was incredible, goal of mine, and being able to hit that was huge. So
Nah, that's
I would say
awesome.
those are huge, huge goals for me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Like that's real life. That's real life of like, a lot of times in life we're gonna have decisions to make of, do you take a leap of faith? Do you take a chance on something, or do you stay where you're comfortable? And I'm
Right.
a big believer of growth happens when you leave your comfort zone. And it sounds like just kind of what you're telling me in your stories and your moment. This was a year of you embracing the uncomfortable and being happy looking back that you did, right?
Oh yeah.
We're always so afraid of the what if it doesn't work, but what if it does? What if
Exactly.
what if
Exactly.
you achieve and find that happiness that you're looking for? And so I'm happy for you in that perspective, man.
Thank you, bro.
And hoping for even more growth in 2025.
100%. Appreciate it. What's been your best moment this year?
Yeah, I would say, for me, I try to separate my work from my family as much as possible. And so I want to key in on really family moments involving, the two women in my life, my wife and Bree, and my daughter Layla. So in February, I was able to take my wife on like a 2 week trip to Europe, and she had been wanting to go to Europe for a while. We ended up doing Spain and Italy. We did like Rome Rome and what was it? Rome and Venice, and then we also did or Florence, Rome and Florence, and then we did Barcelona and Madrid,
Nice.
and it was incredible trip. We got to see art and Gaudi and all type of visuals that we were not able to experience. We did, Chianti wine tours. We were in the vineyards of up north in Italy, and being able to eat all kinds of foods and go to
Sounds
different
amazing.
clubs and different paellas and just
Mm,
different elements of culture. And being able to do that for 2 weeks, like that's a blessing in itself, of something that, luckily I'm able to have a job that is able to provide some of that, not only freedom to go, but, the finances to be able to afford something like that and really enjoy it. And so that was a moment and memory that I'll have forever. And then most recently, seeing my daughter go about her first two organized activities, and her first soccer season, her first dance season, and just seeing the pure joy, the cuteness, but also just like her coming into her own, and finding a level of competitiveness in soccer, but also a level of focus and discipline and dance. It's a proud father moment, because up until this point you raised them pretty much to do exactly what you tell them. And so
right.
as they get to an age now where she's 4, where she starts to have her own opinions, her own actions, her own ways of going about life, is starting to see that independence. And you have a certain proudness, a certain joy, a certain happiness that maybe you've never had for even your own self, because it's something that's from you, not in you, and so that has been a really cool moment for me as well.
Oh yeah. No, you're an inspiration when I get to that point, as a husband and as a father,
Yeah.
I think you do a phenomenal job, and
Thank you, man.
you set the path and lead by example, which is
Appreciate
powerful,
that.
man.
Appreciate that.
100%.
Appreciate that, man. You know what also I do? Oh! Yes,
I'm
sir.
getting better at this.
You're getting
Don't.
better at it. You're getting better. I think it was Bond at first who caught
I know.
on, and I think
Uh,
you've been getting it more the last couple of weeks. And so,
I have.
it's Highland with the Wolf time. We talk some non-football. Let's jump around the league and do a few quick football topics that kind of popped up here that are on my mind. First of all, let's do this. MVP. We talked about it a few weeks ago, but we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Week 18, it seems closer than ever. You got Josh Allen, you got Lamar Jackson. Even some people might include Saquon in that conversation. But the Lamar versus Josh Allen conversation is getting spicy, man.
It is.
That those fan bases are tearing each other apart. You see them criticize one guy over the other. I need this top 3 MVP ballot. If you were a voter right here, which by the way, I am not a voter. Hopefully one day I will be. But put in the ballot 3, 2, 1. Give me what you would send in and a brief of why.
It's crazy because when we had this conversation last, I thought it was Josh Allen's for running away with it. He was coming off those two
Yeah.
games in a row where he had 6 touchdowns in or 12 touchdowns in two, or what was it? Yeah, 12 touchdowns in 2 games or
Yeah,
six.
12 touchdowns in 2 games. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like even just saying that was like, wait, is that even
Crazy.
possible? But yeah, it was.
Crazy.
But what Lamar has just done the last couple of weeks, he is on fire.
Yeah.
It's so tough. I mean, the debate right now is like, which I don't like it, is like Lamar's got 2, Josh Allen has 0, so give it to Josh. I'm
Yeah.
like, I get it. I know it is really that close, and maybe it really does come down to that, where it's just like so even.
Yeah.
Lamar's numbers are technically better than
Mm-hmm.
Josh's, but it's man, I'm struggling. I mean, I would say obviously Saquon 3. I said Josh Allen before. I want to say Josh Allen's 2, and then Lamar's now number 1 again.
Ooh.
I
Ooh.
know. It's just Lamar's on a tear right now, and the Ravens are
Yes.
playing hot right now. And if they win the division, because it was also where the Ravens were at that spot in the season too,
Yep.
right? Where it was like they were kind of more of a wild card team. Now they look like they're going to probably win the division. So it's like, damn. I mean, they're going to be a division winner. Lamar's playing at an extremely high clip. And I got to throw another name in there that I know is floating out there, but he's not going to win it. But honestly, probably deserves it, especially if they somehow sneak in, is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is on fucking fire right
Joe
now.
Shiesty,
And
Joe Shiesty.
I think he's 6 games in a row over 250 and 3 TDs. Led his team to a win. And you saw the way that Broncos game went. And Joe Burrow said, "Okay, clearly no one else on this team can go win this game for me. So I'm
Yep.
going to get that last opportunity again and go win it. I'm not going to put it in the kicker's hand. I'm not going to put it in the defense's hand. I'm going to throw a touchdown to T. Higgins in overtime and just end this game." Right?
Yeah.
Burrow, if the Bengals get in, there's got to be a conversation that Burrow is in that conversation up there with Lamar and Josh. I know what Lamar and Josh are doing are insane, and their teams are playing at a high level. But what Burrow is doing too has to be in the conversation. And yeah, Saquon obviously record breaker, over 2,000 yards. Unfortunately, it sucks that running backs don't get the love in this conversation as much as they should. But if he breaks a record, depending whether or not he plays this week, obviously too, I think obviously he deserves it. I just don't think he'll win it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's tough, man. There's a lot of guys that deserve it.
It's
There's
crazy.
A lot of guys that deserve it.
And you mentioned Joe Burrow. If they won maybe one or two more games, or even if they snuck in the playoffs, he certainly would be right there with Lamar and Josh.
Yeah.
He's had an incredible season. He's got a level of assassin in him that is just untaught. Like it's just
Crazy.
special. I've watched him in pregame, and I don't think I've ever seen a guy that I got chills watching just based off his mentality. Like not his size, not the way he throws, just like the way he interacting, the way he's moving. I was talking to one of his teammates, Chase Brown, I believe, before one of the games, and he was like, Joe it's almost like he's a serial killer because like he was like it was Mike Hilton who told me this, their cornerback. Mike Hilton was like, just watch him. He was like, I watch him sometimes and pregame before he does national anthem. And he was like, he doesn't look, he's like the planes fly over, he doesn't affect him. The singing, he just stares straight. And I'm like, I don't know what he's staring at. Sometimes I look like, what are you staring at? What is going on in your mind? I wish I was there. But you can't. He's just locked in at a different level. And so the Bengals obviously can only get in if the Dolphins don't get in. But That's probably the team, honestly, that most teams in the AFC say, I don't want to see them. And it's
100%.
Yeah, Joe Burrow. My rankings, number 3 has got to be Saquon. I think we're going to have a conversation here in Holland with the Wolf about Saquon deeper. But my caveat, and it remains my caveat, if he gets the record, he's number 1, no matter what. I think that he would be my number 1 if he got the record. And there's a lot of things to talk about in that we will. But right now, 2000 is so impressive. I think he's the offensive player of the year. The MVP is going to go to a quarterback. Number 2 is Lamar Jackson for me. Incredible season. He is playing out of his wazoo. I'm with you. I don't think he shouldn't get the award just because he's won it twice. Give it to him as many times as he deserves it. And he's an incredible athlete, probably my favorite athlete to watch in the NFL, just because of how unique he is with his skill set, how loose and free he plays, and how he's evolved as a passer. Incredible player, and I hate that this award's got nasty and people taking shots because Lamar is by far a top 3 quarterback, and he's showing it time and time again. He's just got to get that playoff monkey off his back. Number 1 is Josh Allen for me, and the reason why I'm picking Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson is circumstance more than numbers. You're right. The numbers do scream Lamar. He's got more yards. He's got more touchdowns. Similar on the turnover percentage. And as you mentioned, both of them are on track to win their division. But what Josh Allen has done with this Bills roster that people left,
it's true. It's true.
Said their window was closed. They said it was a Jets division. They said it was a Dolphins division. They said you don't have Stephon Diggs anymore. You got to throw to a bunch of rookie and young receivers. This is a retool year for them. And not only did he ignore all of that, he probably had his best year as a pro. And that the reason why I think the numbers are not as significant with this is because I watch him. I watch him every given Sunday, and he's evolved as a player to one who takes care of the ball. His turnover rate is the lowest in his career. He's making smart decisions. He's taking less hits. He has the fewest sacks allowed in the NFL, and that's a quarterback stat as well as an O-line stat. That's him not holding the ball to 5 seconds and taking that sack. He's making the smart calls to keep him in it, and they have a chance to, go and make a playoff run. And I think this is their best year, their best chance to take out Patrick Mahomes. And they already beat him. They're the only team that beat him earlier this year. They've had those marquee wins in the marquee moments. And so ultimately, very, very close. But I give Josh the edge. And I saw
Yeah,
him in person this week against the Jets. And I think it was the capper for me. Just seeing his performance the way he is. This is the fifth straight year he's had 40 plus touchdowns. No other quarterback ever has had even four. And so it's just kind of a testament to all that he does. This week, he's going to play maybe a snap or two. He has a 114 straight consecutive game streak, so he wants to keep the streak alive. Then he's going to sit. So I'm interested to see if voters factor in the overall numbers, because Lamar will have an extra game over
that's
Josh.
true.
But I
Yeah.
still think that Josh is my MVP.
Yeah, no, that's a fair thought. As I was even thinking about it, it's like when you look at what Derrick Henry has done for the Ravens and his, kind of impact on that team as well, right? It's
Yep.
not that
Yep.
it's taken some of off Lamar, but realistically, it opens up the offense for Lamar, right? Because defenses have to respect a guy in Derrick Henry. Whereas to your point, Josh Allen is really, that roster regressed and he had to do a lot more. So based off of that, I could see how that goes into account into him having an edge versus a guy like Lamar.
Yeah. And so from that second topic I wanted to highlight on, I mentioned it there. Saquon Barkley got 2,000 yards in 16 games. Very impressive. He's averaging 5.8 yards per carry. By far the best running back this season, and I think the best free agent signing for sure. The Giants,
Yep.
unfortunately, will have to attest to that. Play the John Mara clip, but it's been a fun ride to see Saquon ball out. They have a dilemma. 101 yards for him to break Eric Dickerson's record. That's less than his season average. He certainly could do it, and he get a chance to do it against his former team, the Giants, in Week 18. The only problem is the Eagles have nothing to play for. They are locked in the 2 seed. They don't have a bye, and so this will be a perfect opportunity for them to rest and get healthy for the playoffs and make this Super Bowl run. By the time this podcast comes out, Nick Sirianni may have already made his decision. At this point, on Tuesday, he's saying that we have not made a choice yet. Saquon wants the record, but he's going to listen to coach. What's your take? Should the Eagles let Saquon go get the record?
I would say yes, right? Because it's like he was going to have to probably play that game hypothetically either way, right? Like you don't go into a season thinking like, okay, you want that situation, but you don't think that, hey, Week 18, we're probably playing for something, whether that's seeding, playoff implications, whatever that may be. I lean on the side yes, because that is a record that he deserves based off the year that he's had. And if it was, hey, you need 200 yards, then maybe, you know what, hey, maybe that's not as realistic. So why push that narrative? Even though he could probably do it, it's less of a chance, right? Whereas 101 yards, knowing Saquon, and it's against his former team, like it is definitely possible. And we know that he could probably do it. So that's where I lean on the yes side, right? But if you look in the fact that, okay, let's say you let him chase the record and God forbid, knock on wood, something happens to him, you're going to live with so much regret as an organization, as a player, as a coach, right? Like everyone is going to be pissed. He breaks the record and he's good. Then everyone's like, oh yeah, he did it. Congrats. And we move on into the playoffs, right? So it's like, it's such a fine line because it's like, it's the player versus the team situation, essentially.
Yep.
And I don't think Saquon's selfish. He'll do what's best for the team every single time. But it's like he's so close. It's like you almost got to let him have a chance at it, right? And maybe it's one of those things like, hey, Giants shut him out in the first half. He runs for 20 yards, and you're like, hey, you know what? We gave you a chance. You don't really we don't want to try to push it to try to get you there now. So maybe it's a situation like that. But shit, maybe you feed him in the first half, give him a good amount of touches. He breaks a 60-yard run at one point, and boom, you don't even have to play him in the second half. He breaks a record, right? So I say try it out, and then at halftime you evaluate what the situation is, and then maybe pull him there.
Yeah. The injuries are certainly going to be the big question because the fact is, if you play Saquon, you probably got to play all your starters. You can't put him out there with a backup line, so you got your lineman at risk as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't live in fear. As a fan of this team, as a fan of the NFL, I want to see history made, and I think that this is more than just a moment in time. This is something that Saquon and the Eagles, their running back coach Jamal Singleton, their O line, their whole roster would remember for years and years to come. It does not detract from the goal. Every single day they go out there, there's a risk they can get hurt. And yes, I would be holding
Exactly.
my breath that no one gets hurt, but you don't want to live in regret or in fear. And I
Exactly.
think that they're going to tell Saquon to sit down the starters. But if I were the coach here, and I think it would galvanize the team a little bit, let's go get it. Let's go
Yeah.
get it. Let's go put our foot to the pedal and try to go get this record. And like you said, maybe we get it in the first half and we can sit them after that. But I would have that mindset. What's interesting to me is that the players are split. You got Lane Johnson and AJ Brown. They asked after the game, said, "Let's rest. I need that time." Older vet.
Yeah.
You got Jordan Mailata, their left tackle, saying, "I would vouch to go for the record. Let's go get it." And so even they are split. I think it's a
That's
tough
crazy.
question for me. I say, don't live in fear. Let Saquon go get the record.
Agree. Let him go get it. And you're a
Yeah.
Philly fan, so coming from you, that says a lot too.
I trust me. I want a Super
Yeah.
Bowl for that team more
Exactly.
than just about anybody. But I also think that you got to let guys go do what they do, and this record is something that is forever.
I hope
Go
he
get
gets it,
both.
man. He
Why
deserves
not
it.
both? What's the meme? The little girl meme.
Exactly.
Why
Yeah.
not both?
Yeah. I agree.
Last one here, Holland here. Two quick moments that went viral on social. I just want your opinion on one or both of them. First, there was a big fight in the Eagles-Cowboys game where 3 players got ejected. Sidney Brown was involved with the Eagles. It got to the point where fans were for recording where they were scrapping on the side. It was like a really grimy video. So it's so interesting, like fans being involved with that. You know, we see fan videos of fights, but now you see a player video on the field. The second thing was Jeremy Reeves, the Washington special teamer, proposed to his lady on the field after they won and clinched the playoff spot. They got about 55 million impressions on NFL account, and there's a lot of things said. The proposal on the field is one of them. How people feel about that. Also, who he picked as his wife. People want to judge all these things. You know, NFL players. You know, black
Crazy.
NFL player.
Yeah.
All these things. Tell me these 2 viral moments. What sticks out to you the most?
Well, I love the fighting. Honestly, I'm always a fan of it. Like let them loose. I always am curious. Was like there's some sort of beef beforehand, like that led to that, or some sort of tension before, right? That always kind of leads into these fights. But I'm all here for the fights. I think it gets the juices going. It gets the blood going, and I think the NFL obviously it has this reputation of soft and all this stuff, right?
Yep.
I think we lean into that a little bit more. Obviously, you got to protect the players and all that fun stuff. But, if a little fight breaks out here and there, it usually doesn't escalate too much. So it's enough where it's like, okay, hell yeah, I'm riled up. Like, let's go. But then it de-escalates, and then you figure out what the repercussions of that are after, right? Obviously, don't want to get in those situations in games and situations where, you might get suspended a game and your team needs you the next week. You got to obviously be smart too. But I think there's a fine line with it. Like, let it happen.
Yeah.
Let those emotions roll and do what you got to do on the field and be aggressive. So I'm game with the fights, 100%.
Yeah.
And then as far as the proposals, I'm good with it. You want to propose to your girl on the field, like that's your life.
Yeah.
And your girl's cool with it too. If she's not cool with it, then that's a different discussion. But if she's cool with it, she's okay with all the publicity that comes with it, then by all means go. And then I don't know why everyone was so against his girl.
It's a stereotypical thing. It's the
I know.
thought that, hey, black NFL player, once they get to the league, can go with a white lady.
Yeah.
The reality is, it's probably a lot less frequent that people see. They just see the outside opinion.
Exactly.
And as we're seeing with this Travis Hunter thing evolving, people always want to have a take about some celebrity or some very public relationship that is not theirs.
Yeah. Everyone's got an opinion on things that are completely irrelevant to their life. So, I mean, poor guy, bro. Like the guy just had a highlight of
he had
his
to tweet
moment.
about it and say like, y'all are crazy, or social media, whatever. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'll start with that one. I'm a big against game proposals. I do not think that for an event proposals should happen. I just not vibe with me, and I'm even less against proposing after your game. But again, just as I said with that, to each his own. I'm not gonna knock him on it. That is not like That is
You
not a
wouldn't do it,
vibe.
basically.
Yeah, yeah. Sporting events are no nos. Don't put it on the jumbotron. Don't say the "Will
Well,
you marry
it's
me?"
it's it's weird because I for the players I'm cool with it. I'm anti fan proposals in the stadium. I think that shit
Yeah,
is corny as hell.
yeah.
Like, really, bro? Like, I don't know. Like, that. Like, there could have been so many other places you could have done this, but you chose to do it in the stands of a football game and the logistics that have to go into that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think it's circumstantial. Like, if you met your girl at a game and you
Mm,
guys have been going to games forever and that's your thing,
yeah.
and hey, respect, completely understand. But I don't know. Like the fan stuff is a little
It's,
cheesy to me.
it's layered. And my only real take with this fight thing is guys got to stop fighting with helmets on. I just don't get it. That is one of my
Yeah,
big frustrations with fights. Like, what damage are you gonna do to a helmet that is really gonna hurt somebody? And I get it, the adrenaline's flowing, you're
yeah,
pushing, you're shoving, your natural thing is to punch. But I've seen so many dudes try to swing on people with helmets, and I'm like, you're gonna hurt your hand more. And so, please, guys, stop fighting with helmets on. Like, let's make it like hockey. If you want to fight, I got no
just
problem with
strip off
fighting.
the helmet.
If you said I know I'm gonna get ejected, I know I'm gonna get fined, potentially suspended, whatever it is, let's just drop them. The refs let them do their thing, and then when they fall to the ground, which inevitably happens, nobody's fighting for longer than 15, 20
Yeah,
seconds.
exactly. They're always short
Guys
fights.
can fall to the ground. Whenever that happens, refs break it up. We get our penalties, we get our ejections. Let's keep it moving.
If the NFL embraced hockey style fights, that's it. NFL would be
Let's do it.
insanity. I am
Let's
so
do it. I
game
mean,
for
I
that.
guess the king stays the king as far as the
Yeah,
NFL and me and
of
my
course.
fantasy league because I won the fantasy league, so the king stays the king.
Damn.
But
Congrats.
the
Oh
league
yeah.
stays the league no matter what, so they don't need to make any drastic changes.
No, they don't.
But if they ever got a threat from somebody else,
That would be
establish that hockey
crazy.
style fighting. I bet
I'm
you
so game for that.
them ratings go crazy up.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't necessarily help with the concussion
No,
CTA
no.
minimization, but to each his own.
Yeah, I'm game with it.
So, as we wrap this thing up, Dre, I want to look into 2025, and we've had, eventful 2024. A lot of people do New Year's resolutions. For me and my family, we do what is our word for the year. But I'll kind of leave this open ended for you. What is your thought process going into 2025? What is something you're speaking into existence?
Yeah, I use this word I think a couple episodes, right? And I think my word for the year is elevate, right? It's really about leveraging the momentum that 2024 was able to be built off of and elevating, things to another level, right?
Yeah,
It's also, it's always a constant evolution, right? I mean that's the only way you do get better, right? It's you look at yourself in the moment right now and where you're at and how can you improve, right? Because if you settle and you come complacent with where you're at right now, then you're not going to be able to take that next step in your life, right? And yeah, there is about being grateful for where you're at right now and being happy with where you're at, and elevating and always improving does not come from a place of just not being satisfied where you're at. It's just about realizing that there's an untapped potential, right? Like
yeah,
that there's always room for improvement, and I'm a big believer in that we're always going to make mistakes and we're always going to kind of have opportunities to be better. So to take that and use what you've done well in a certain moment, but using that as a catalyst to improve and using it as an opportunity to improve, that's really where I want to put my focus on, right? Is becoming a better man, becoming a better brother, becoming a better boyfriend, becoming a better entrepreneur and leader, right? And becoming a better friend, right? Because I just think if we can look at those facets of our life and use that to become better overall holistically, it's just going to make us better, but it's also going to make the people around us better, right? So it's really about elevating this year and using all the lessons learned from this past year and taking that as momentum into 2025.
I love that. I love that. Elevate, elevate,
Elevate, baby.
elevate.
That's the motto.
So I haven't figured out my word yet. I'm gonna spend the rest of the day, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, and some point New Year's Day. Me and my wife will talk about it. But I'll tell you this: plant was my word for 2024. Planting
Love
seeds
that.
and fertile ground that I wanted to build for. And
Oh
in
yeah.
some ways, I've planted really successful seeds that I've seen grow. In other ways, plants have not. reap seed, and the land may be barren in that refresh, and I have to really look to God and say, be happy with the seeds that I have planted and things that I have grown. And as I think about 2025, I'm asking God for just a lot of things, asking God for patience and clarity, asking God for a level of contentment. Because as you mentioned, just the striving, I think oftentimes we get in this constant race of what's there, how do I get there? And the there is like an endless moving goalpost. And I think that as I still go upon this journey of getting there, I want to be content in where I am. And content meaning not necessarily like settling. Content means
Right.
satisfied.
Hmm.
Satisfied while still going for more. Like I am truly content with where I am and still striving for more. So I think that's a period where I'm entering where you still have things to strive for, but I want to enjoy the journey. I want to
Yep.
have the happiness and the experience, and even through the struggles. And there's beauty in the struggle, as Cole would say. And so that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I think my word will likely involve something in that realm.
I love that. Yeah. And it's funny that you use the word plant because today's tranquilo thoughts are around uh, the concept of a plant, right?
Yep.
And I'll read it now because I think it's very relevant based off of what you were just saying, right? A flower blossoms during different seasons. Sometimes the flower is dormant, other
Mhm.
times the flower blossoms. In life, we have our different seasons. Just because you may not be blossoming does not mean you're not living or doing well. It means you're prepping for your season of blossom. Continue to do the things that fuel your soul, and when the time is right, you will blossom.
Mm.
And I think that's so accurate, right? Because I think nature gives us so many kind of what's the word, analogies or right, analogies,
Yep.
where we can find symbolism in that, right? Where although right now we may not feel like we're at our potential or we're at our highest capability, it doesn't necessarily mean that the things that you're doing are wrong, right? It just means that in God's timing and divine timing, that it is not that time for you to be blossoming. It's not that time for you to maybe see the results of the work that you've put in, right? So
Mhm.
it's about, just like you said, it's about the journey and it's about that continuous effort. A plant takes time to grow. A flower blossoms during the different times of the year. And I believe our life is very similar to that, right? Where the work that we put in, you don't realize that on the back end of God's timing, that He's there working with you to be able to achieve those goals, and get the results that you want. So,
Mhm.
that concept of planting, you got to plant the seeds to be able to grow. If you don't plant the seeds, water it, give it sun, give it nourishment, it's never going to grow. And I believe in our life, we have to do the same, right? We have to plant the seeds, then we got to water those seeds, and we got to give it life, and we got to give it sunlight and all these important things. And we got to do that for ourselves as well. So if we do that and we take care of ourselves, the sky's the limit at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure, man. I love that. I love that, and I love this being our, when it lands, first episode of 2025,
True.
Breaking House Rules. Thank you guys for joining. Subscribe, share, tell your friends, and Vaughn will be back with us as we tell this newest story of the Dolphins and the NFL and Breaking House Rules next week. So thank you
Yes,
guys.
sir.
Happy New Year, and see
Happy
you.
New Year, everybody. Appreciate y'all.